The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Coming to you cordless from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's the big giant head. It's Tuesday night, April 1st, 2025. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 216, if you're keeping score at home. And we got the whole little studio fired up here, and all the equipment's actually working, and God in heaven, how does this even happen anyway? You know, I'm a computer programmer. I know how the internet works. It's still freaking amazing. It is. And I got some that we're going to be talking about that in just a second, too. We have no guests tonight. It's open phones night. It's April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. Now, all right, the day is almost done. We got a few hours left. And you can call up and you can punk me. See the number at the bottom of the screen here? Right here. It's right there. 325 call Jim. 325-225-5546. Give me a call. That's what we're doing. I'm taking calls all night long tonight. I got stuff to talk about as usual, but you can interrupt me. That's the way it works. And then also you can send me a text at 408-458-5088. That's 408-458-5088. Got a screen off to the side here. All this stuff. Freaking, it's amazing how anything works. So yeah, so it's April 1st tonight. And we got it going on. All right. So tomorrow night, no guest tonight. Tomorrow night, our guest is Jeff Meyer. He's the CEO and publisher of Conch News, our sponsor. He comes on once a month. Assuming that the storm, which he called the Snownami, does not knock him and us offline. He's in his estate in northern Wisconsin, and the weather's supposed to be pretty bad up there. Now, I don't know about where you live. We had this trouble here in the past. We replaced our internet provider during the summer here about 10 months ago. It was a fantastic move because we're on fiber optic gigabit internet now. And I don't think it hasn't gone down for more than 5 minutes in 9 months. It's been really amazing. Not to mention the fact, especially because we're on fiber optic now, the upload speed is equal to the download speed. So we got gigabit upload speed too, which helps immensely when it comes to broadcasting this program. But before that, we had a thing here, and this is actually, I mean, we're in town. We're right across the river from downtown Minneapolis. But we had a thing here where if the weather got really bad, our internet went out. And of course, that's the last time you want the internet to go out because, you know, weather and all this sort of stuff and communicating with people, you don't want that. And it was a real problem. So I talked to Jeff. I got an email from today about tomorrow. And he said, you know, he's planning on coming on, but, you know, there's in rural areas, rural Minnesota, what we call upstate, and rural Wisconsin, which is pretty much all of it, except Milwaukee. They have problems if the weather gets really bad. The internet goes out. I got a friend of mine moved from Minneapolis to Wisconsin, 30 miles from the UP border of Michigan. It's a beautiful setting where he's living. I mean, it's really fantastic. He built a new house there. I won't say where he's on a major river, and right at the crux of it. I mean, that's right. He did a fantastic job, but he's in the middle of nowhere. I go to visit him once a year now. In October, when the colors change here, that would be fall. It's a perfect drive. It's like a 5-6 hour drive to get to his house from Minneapolis. But we go once a year to visit them. And he sent me a picture from his estate just the other night. They had a huge snowstorm, and it was pretty bad, I guess. So, and they were offline for like 36 hours, can't, and no self-service, nothing, can't talk to anybody. And that's what happens when you live in rural America. Except, here's the deal. Now, I have a lot of family in northern Wisconsin too. That's not Jeff. He's up there, but I have family up there too, a lot. And what I've noticed, and we go up there in the summers and visit them, and in the summers, I bitch and moan about winter here in Minneapolis, but it's really true. 4 months of the year, it's terrible. Okay, so now it's winter's pretty much done now. It's technically spring as of March 21st. And but we're expecting a snowstorm tonight. It won't, even if it does snow, it'll be gone in a couple days. I mean, it's warm enough now that's happening. I mean, we had, was it last Thursday? No, last Friday, we had an 80-degree day here. Unbelievable for March. Really incredible. But what I've noticed up north is that, well, okay, so I'm in the middle of the city here. We're about a block from Broadway, and Broadway Avenue in Northeast Minneapolis was deliberately set exactly on the 45th parallel. So if you're standing in the middle of the street, you're supposed to be theoretically exactly halfway between the equator and the North Pole. That was the idea. They did this deliberately. It was the 1850s, and I don't think their measurement systems were very accurate. They kind of missed. It turns out they're off by about 500 feet, but that was the idea. We're on the 45th parallel here. So if I leave the house or my little studio here too, and want to go anywhere, it's a 20-minute drive just because of city traffic for no other reason. You go downtown, it's even worse. Downtown's across the river. I've said this before. Northeast Minneapolis as a neighborhood is more like Brooklyn than any other place in America outside of Brooklyn. It shares all the qualities. It used to be a separate city. It was the city of St. Anthony originally. It's right across the river from downtown. And what's the third thing? Oh geez, I can't even remember. I can't remember now. But yeah, it is. It's like this, pretty much like living in New York here. And if going anywhere, to drive anywhere is at least 20 minutes of your life. At least, you want to drive down the street 6 blocks, it's going to take you 20 minutes. Okay. But up north, you can drive for 20 minutes and go 20 miles. So the distances are longer, but the amount of time is pretty much the same. And what I've noticed is that all these little towns kind of sort of make up their own metropolitan kind of area. A lot of times in your little town, there's not a store for something, but you drive 20 miles away, and you can find it. There's a store there. My point is that drive doesn't take me any longer than it does to drive 6 blocks down Central Avenue. It doesn't. So it's really kind of weird. I mean, this is what's happened in American life. And so more and more people are figuring, if I can get an internet connection that's really solid, I can pretty much work from anywhere. I think that's true about half the country now, well, until AI takes your job. And I should have laughed because, that's been a big thing of mine for a long time here. Give me a call, 325-225-5546. Yeah, let's talk about AI, because the thing is, AI is coming, and AI is coming for your ass. That's the way I look at it. I do not think AI is going to kill humanity. I don't think it's going to take over the cosmos. I don't think any of that stuff, but I do think it's going to put about half the people in America out of work. That I do think. And I think that might happen within the next 20 years, if not 10. I mean, it's astonishing the stuff you can do with AI now that's so cheap. That's the thing. I mean, I'm looking at constantly. Let me give you an example. So, we're not on TikTok, and also, and I shouldn't even get started on this because it's depressing. I've been on TikTok now, trying to figure out how and where to put our show right on TikTok. And first of all, I just found this out. I can't really put the show on TikTok. I can only put the first hour of it on TikTok, because you can broadcast live on TikTok, but you can't broadcast live for over an hour, for more than an hour. After that, they cut you off. And the other thing is, I can't put archives of the show on TikTok, because the longest video you can put on TikTok posted is only 10 minutes. But I could do shorts. You know, and a lot of people do this, and you know, and no one has an attention span anymore. Anyway, I'm talking to Steven, our erstwhile producer here, and he's talking about the fact that he's basically addicted to TikTok Shorts. You know, this is the new entertainment. You know, people entertainment in 1 minute bites. Why watch a sitcom when you can't get a laugh out of somebody goofing around for 1 minute? But I don't have time to make shorts for TikTok or YouTube for that matter, or any of these places. I don't. But I can get a service that will do it for about, depends on which one you hire, about $50 a month that will automatically generate shorts from any show we do and post them. Yeah. It's basically hands off. Basically, it just does it. You tell them what you want to do. You tell them how many shorts you want from the show, and it just does. It actually picks the clips. Not only it picks the clips and does the editing and does the reformatting from horizontal to vertical. You know, yeah, okay, $50 a month. All right, well, I'm not going to go broke, I guess. You know, I mean, we're already paying enough money to do this, so you know, it's like yeah, so that's just one little example. Uh, TikTok or not or AI is going to not TikTok. That's hilarious. AI is going to do pretty much everything. Now, the reason I said being on TikTok is depressing because it is because I'm just astonished at the number of people who are just everybody wants to be an influencer. Everybody. Because you know, everybody thinks, well, if I'm an influencer, I'll make a lot of money at this. And a few people do. And that's really the sad part because a few people make enormous amounts of money. The vast majority of people don't make much of any. And then you're just producing crap. There's so much video crap online now, it's mind-boggling. You know? I mean, I've come to the conclusion that really what the internet needs now is a curation service. You know, somebody who actually goes and you maybe I don't know, maybe you could train AI to do that. You actually go through all this stuff and actually pick the clips that are actually half-ass good. But you know, I mean, you know, you're asking AI to have a sense of humor. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, right now humans can't even agree on what's funny, let alone let alone a bunch of computers. You know, so I started that because I was talking about Jeff Meyer coming on the show tomorrow night. So I'm going full circle here. So the thing is, if the weather's really bad and his internet connection craps out, he won't be on. We're still. I'm assuming it's not supposed to be that bad here. I'm assuming we will be on. Like I said, this new service internet connection we have seems to be absolutely rock solid. We haven't any trouble with it, so I'm assuming we're going to do a show tomorrow either way. But there's a possibility he won't be on. Now, Thursday, we're taking Thursday off. I have a family thing. Can't talk about it beyond that. But yeah, so we were only doing 2 shows this week, which is unusual. Last week we did 5 shows for the first time ever, all Monday through Friday. We did. All right, we got another thing we're going to do tomorrow night too, whether Jeff is here or not. And this is technical stuff, but you know, if you're a nerd or dork like me, this turns your crank. We've been broadcasting the show since we started on July 31st, 2023. We've been broadcasting in what's called 720p, which is standard high def. We have a call. I'm going to take it. No, this person dropped out. Okay. All right, that's cool. Called and left. We've been broadcasting in 720p. Oh, all right. I'm going to take it. Something's wrong. They can't figure it out. Somebody can't figure it out. We got an auto screening system here. If you call in, speaking of AI, the AI voice will ask you, you know, what's your name and why do you want to talk to me? And you got about, I think, 30 seconds or 20 seconds to leave a response. And when you leave a response, that audio is translated into text to put on the screen here next to me. Isn't that pretty much amazing? And it's I think it's confused right now. Oh, okay, hold on. No, it's Think. I got it. Think, is that you?
Yep, it's me, Jim.
Hey, you're
sorry.
here. No, what happened? Did you call and then hang up again?
Yeah. I called and I was pressing some buttons and I just I hung up on you and then tried to call back and then it's weird.
Think you should know better than to push buttons. You shouldn't do that.
That's how you learn. You press.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, we should have them put on T-shirts. That's how you learn. You press buttons. How are you,
Hey
my
Jim,
friend?
I'm good. I'm good. How's it going, Jim?
Yeah, okay. All right. All right. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, when you were younger, did you play video games?
No, I
Or are you a
didn't.
video game person? No.
No, and here's
Oh,
the deal. First of all, you have to understand how old I am. Think there was no such thing as video games when I was growing up, not even close. But secondly, I am I'm a web programmer and really got into it. And although I don't do it professionally anymore, I still keep up with it. I mean, I do our website and that sort of stuff. But the thing is, I do know that if I had video games when I was growing up, I would have become a video game programmer. I know that because it's like I'm just fascinated by the whole damn thing. It's and also, I don't have to tell you, there's an enormous amount of money in it. There's way more money now in video games than there are in movies, you know. So I have a great appreciation for it, but no, I don't do it. Why do you ask?
oh well, I have a theory that whatever we do when we're younger, as we grow older, we do what we were playing with when we were younger.
Yeah,
And it seems like a lot of adults who aren't familiar with the web, unlike you, it seems like you're very familiar. So someone like you, I would have thought play video games when they're younger. Like my mom and dad don't know that much about computers, but they weren't playing video games when they were younger. You know what I mean? Or my
yeah.
grandparents.
Well, but
So
think
I always,
seriously. When I was growing up, I mean, I graduated from high school in 1974. We had four television channels. That was it. We didn't have shit.
oh
No,
wow,
and that's actually
oh
one of the
wow.
reasons I'm fascinated with video broadcasting is because of that. I mean, that was the big deal when I was growing up as television. But yeah, so I mean, I got into the to web programming when I was in my 30s, and don't want to really want to talk about that per se, but I've done a lot of projects that are absolutely enormous that people have heard of, and I don't kind of like go there. But I mean, I was working on the internet before anybody knew what it was. So I've kept up with it ever since. So yeah, I am really, and I'm still endlessly fascinated by it. I still am to this day. But no, I couldn't. No, there was no video games when I was growing up. We had Pong. That was it. So anyway, are you into video games yourself?
I played video games when I was younger, but when I went to college, I couldn't afford a video game system, so I just concentrated on my schoolwork. But when I was younger, I would play video games. And you said that a minute ago. You had said that if you grew up in today's society and played video games, you would be developing video games.
Yes.
And I got to tell you how easy it is to develop video games now. You being a web designer, you probably know of CMS systems, content management systems
Yeah.
like WordPress,
Right.
Joomla, Drupal, right?
Right.
It's all basically pre-made for you.
Yeah.
And the shopping cart Magento
Right.
would be the shopping cart. Well, video games has that too. There's an engine called the UT engine, and that's what they use for their 3D first-person shooters. So almost every first-person shooter video game you see, they use that UT engine. It's an Unreal Tournament engine. It's open source where you could just download and adjust the skins and work off of it. Just
Yeah.
like how Drupal and WordPress, all that is.
Right.
It's so much easier to do that now.
Yeah, and actually looked into that. I mean, this is like 20 years ago, but I did actually, even then, that was starting where there was basically you had templates and it was fairly easy to put together a video game. I actually decided not to do it because I was not a player at that time, and I just thought, well, I'll never be that good at designing a game if I don't know the vagaries of playing them, which is the reason I decided not to do it. But I mean, even 20 years ago, that had started, and so haven't followed it since then, but I'm sure you're right. I'm sure at this point, and especially now with AI, I'm sure it's going to be ridiculously easy to design a game. You basically won't have to know anything. Have you tried it?
Wow. No, no, I have. I played. I actually adjusted this. I don't know if you know what Street Fighter. You have to know what Street Fighter is, right? It's
Well,
a video game where it's a video game where you have there's two players and then they fight each other. You have these on the joystick. There's a combination that you could do, and they do special moves, and
Uh-huh.
you attack one another. It's called Street Fighter,
Yeah.
and they have skins for it. There's this engine called Mugen, and you just adjust the skins however you want. Like you can make Steve Jobs fight Bill Gates if you wanted to. You just put their images and in there, and then you can make them fight each other. And people do stuff like that all the time. So yeah, I have played with it, but nothing serious. Like it was just for fun. There's something that I do. You're odd to me, Jim. Very, very odd. Like the fact that I asked you if you play video games and you said no, that's very, very particular. You're mysterious to me. If I talk to a web designer, any type of web designer, when I was in the field during lunchtime, because I worked in a company called I worked in a company that did online training, like before YouTube. And during lunchtime, the web designers and web programmers, they would play video games with each other.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's a normal thing. But for you to be a web designer and you know all this like web stuff or technical stuff and then not play video games, that's very unusual to me. That's cool. It's very cool.
I've had a very unusual work history, which is actually the reason I don't like to talk about it much. I've done a lot of weird stuff, and I don't think most people can relate. So that's honestly the reason I don't talk about it. I don't, but I've had fun. And I've had a good time, you know. So now I'm doing this, which I've always wanted to do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know why. I was just going to say that you're very curious. And yeah, I'm very curious about like your past. That's all. But you don't have to go any further. I take it there's a mystery there that you want to keep secret, which is okay.
Yeah, I guess it is, because the thing is, basically, I don't think I can explain it in 15 minutes. So, yeah, so I just do not try. That's basically the deal. So,
Gotcha. Hey, Jim, have you seen the Snow White movie? It's the #1 movie. You know that, right?
Yeah. Hold it. Just a second. Have you seen it?
No.
No, you haven't, have you? You're not going.
No.
Who are you fooling? You're not going. No, I'm not going either. We're not going. It's like...
well, the web is saying Variety was saying it's the #1 movie. Collider, USA Times, or the US Times was saying it was a #1 movie. A bunch of these news publications was saying it's the #1 movie. But on the web, on YouTube, everyone is saying negative stuff about it. I think the rating for it is like 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
or something
right.
Like that,
that's right. It's terrible. Yeah.
So how can it be listed #1? You know.
Well, I think it's because the one weekend it opened, it actually opened at #1, but there was no competition. So it's like it's #1 basically out of default. I mean, it's good. The way it looks right now, it's going to be probably maybe the biggest box office bomb in history, considering the fact that they spent $275 million making the movie and another $70 million promoting it. They have $350 million put into this, and it doesn't look like they're even going to come close to making their money back right now. That's what. So it's a stinker, and I know you're right. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a terrible score. And everybody I've talked to and everything I've read said it's not, people like to complain about this woke stuff, but apparently it's not even that. It's just a really bad movie. So, it's like they spent a lot of money and I don't know. And I don't understand how you can spend that much money and get a bad movie, but you do. They did. So, and you're not going. Who are you fooling? You're not going to go.
I tell you, I know this liberal girl. She wasn't liberal. It was when Trump became president, she started becoming very weird. But throughout the years when Trump became president again, when Biden was president, she dyed her hair green, then blue, and she became strong liberal. And I got to tell you, but we still talk. She wants to argue with me all the time, but I don't want to talk politics with her. I know for a fact that if I start talking politics, her and I will argue. But anyway,
hold it. Think. How old is she?
she's in her late 40s, probably 48,
Okay.
49.
All right.
And yeah, and that's odd to me. To me, that's older. And for somebody at her age to have green hair and stuff, it's just weird.
Yeah,
And I'll make,
I
yeah.
agree. I agree. Yeah, you're right. I don't know, because young people do that to draw attention to themselves. Okay, fine, you're young, and stuff. But if
Yeah.
you have to or want to do that, if you're in your late 40s, yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of weird. I do.
Yeah, she's I cannot hate her because she's on public assistance. Her whole family's on public assistance, and I, I mean, I can understand her stance is that way. Why she leans more to the left. She's strong liberal. She makes good arguments. She's smart. She's very smart, and she makes strong arguments for everything. So take for example DEI. She told me that, and I agree with this. Normally I would disagree with DEI, but she made a really strong argument by saying, imagine an older company, a company with just a bunch of old people, and they don't want young people in there, right? Because they think that young people are stupid. But these old people have eventually develop an old style, and they're not open to new ideas. So if you force a young person in there, that young person will eventually tell them newer ideas, and it might help them in establishing a stable foot or ground in the modern day society. Does
Yeah,
that make sense, Jim?
totally. I
What
gotta
I
admit,
just
I
said?
agree with that too. I do.
Yeah, yeah. But even though she's strong liberal, she didn't want to see the movie either.
Oh,
She thinks it's
hold
bad.
it, hold it. Did you ask her to go then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I actually was like, this movie's so bad. I have to know why it's so bad. And I asked her, please, because I figured she's a liberal, she wants this. And she told me no, she doesn't. She doesn't agree with uh, anything that girl Rachel has said. She doesn't like what she has said, how she's so egotistic. She doesn't like that point of view. And she doesn't like the fact that this movie is so like trying to make a woman hate a man. I think that's what she said. It seems like they're trying to divide the two sexes, and she didn't want to. She doesn't. She doesn't like scary movies, and this is like a scary movie to her.
Yeah, that's really
Does
interesting. I'm
that?
glad you brought that up because yeah, you would think that the liberal crowd, liberal people would kind of be interested in seeing this, but I've also heard other liberal people say the same thing that they don't like Rachel Zegler and also the fact that the movie strays so far from the original story to that too, which is I don't know if that's the reason people don't like it or if it's just my impression is it's just done badly, but I find that kind of fascinating too that your friend doesn't want to see it. I really do. Also, the fact that she's complaining about this woman, because yeah, free Palestine, go bullshit. There we go. It's like so I don't know. That's interesting. I'm kind of glad you brought that up. Are you going to go anyway?
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna go. I already know everything and what the movies. I'm almost positive I know what the movie's gonna be about and
Yeah,
how it's gonna play out from every YouTube video that I've seen about it. So I definitely am not gonna go see it. She really messed it up for me. I saw the interviews where Rachel was on there saying stuff like men are like the original Snow White movie had a man follow her around, which is creepy, weird, or whatever how
yeah,
she phrased it. And I was
yeah.
like,
She
come
called.
on,
She
man, but why?
called. She called Prince Charming a stalker.
Yeah, what the hell?
I know.
Yeah,
That's right. What the hell? You're absolutely correct. All
yeah.
righty. And then why are you making the movie then? It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Doesn't make any sense to me, but
But the so all right. So Disney purchased Marvel and Star Wars, and they've been making a whole bunch of bad movies. And the fans have been telling Disney, and Jim, you know for a fact, like I do, that these huge corporations like Disney, they have a PR or HR where they do studies on what the fans want.
Yeah.
And the majority of fans don't want this woke stuff. So let me ask you, why are they still making it?
Because the people running those divisions absolutely want the woke stuff themselves. That's the thing. They aren't listening to the no. I think not only do I know that you're right, they do these studies, but I know that you're right about the fact that the studies are saying the public doesn't want this and they don't care, because part of the liberal mindset, the ideologically liberal mindset, is that if we give this to people long enough and hard enough, they'll learn to like it. That's what I think they think. I really do. And that's just not going to happen. You know, it's like they're wrong, but they do think that. So, and then the thing I don't understand is why these people are left in power so long. I mean, I think is the woman who runs the Star Wars division. I think her name is Kathleen Kennedy. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
I don't understand why she wasn't fired like 7 years ago. I mean, and people are wondering the same thing. I mean, they have turned out one bad movie after another, and yet she still clings on to her job. And you would think somebody in the hierarchy in Disney would say, you know, all right, you've had your chance, time to go, but they don't. And that's the part I don't understand. I understand why they're doing it, even though their logic is completely flawed. But I don't understand why they let why they get to do it over and over again. That's the part I don't understand.
I strongly believe that they're being paid to do this, and Disney doesn't care. That they know. Like, if my theory is correct, Disney, like most corporations, Apple, IBM, they have a PR. I don't know what you call these people, but they do studies and research on how much you would lose if you were to do this and that. And I'm pretty sure they got together and said, you know, we make this movie, this woke movie, you're going to lose a whole bunch of movies, a whole bunch of money. Yet people like Kathleen Kennedy and Bill Geiger or whatever, Bob Geiger or whatever his name is, he says, go ahead. And I strongly believe they're saying this because some NGO is paying them off to make these movies still. That's my opinion. You could believe it or not.
No,
I strongly believe that.
I need you to clarify this though, because I basically think you're right. But do you think that the NGOs, do you think they're paying off the Disney company or these people personally?
I think it might be a combination of both. I don't think they can pay off these people personally, and these people are going to say, well, if it's going to make, like you said, almost a $300 million flop, it's not going to flop 300 million, but it's going to flop almost 200 or $100 million.
Right.
And I don't think they're paying these people 100 million. They're paying Disney, maybe they're paying them a piece, and then they're giving Disney a cut of it as well, just so that Disney can push out this content, and then, you know, they'll keep it afloat. Because really, $300 million is not that much money compared to these NGOs that are making trillions of dollars. That's how I see it.
Yeah, but
it's not billions.
And you just stepped on something there, said something that really resonated with me, and I think the public needs to know this, and that is the fact that you said $300 million is not a lot of money, and that's the crazy thing. In America, we are awash in money. We are so freaking rich, it's mind-boggling. And so you got a company, I mean, you know, it's $1/3 billion, and this amount of money. All right, so now the formula to figure out how, you know, regular inflation going back, like, for example, if you go back 100 years, you can pretty much multiply whatever it was by 40 times to get to the certain amount, which means that, all right, I'm going to do some quick math here. If we said that they were going to lose like $200 million, it would probably have been what, 40 million bucks 100 years ago, or maybe 4 million bucks, something like that. I mean, people, you know, it's like, that's the thing. It's like these figures are so massive. And yet you're absolutely right. It doesn't, people can afford to do this. They can afford to lose $300 million. You're absolutely correct. And also the NGOs can afford to give them that much money. And I think, this is all I know, I've been doing this long enough to know that there's a whole bunch of stuff that the public says, oh, that could never happen, that actually happens. That's what I know. And I don't know if you're right, but I think it's extremely plausible that your theory is correct. I really do. I have no idea if it's actually true, but can that happen? Oh, definitely, absolutely could happen. Not a doubt in my mind that some NGO or some Democratic Party or George Soros or somebody's paying the money. That absolutely doesn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me the least bit. It wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that all these Tesla protesters. I have a story about that later, but they're saying that these protesters are paid off, and
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
Just to let you know, when there was a time period in my life when Bush was president, and I was looking for jobs. I actually looked for a job on Craigslist, and I remember I was at this interview with like 50 different people at this place. I thought I was competing with all of them, but at the end, it wasn't competing, and they were talking politics in there. Like they were saying all this bad stuff about the Republican Party. This is when George Bush was president, and at the end of the whole interview, where meeting you could or conference you could say, 50 of us was in a room, almost an auditorium, listening to about 5-10 people that were telling us all this stuff about how bad the Republican was. And then later they talked to us individually. And I remember when they talked to me individually, they were saying, this lady was like, it was, now that you hear our point of view, would you like to get paid to do, I forgot what she had said, but it was something along the lines of working for them. I thought I was going to be working in an office.
Yeah.
But I'm almost positive they were paying us to protest.
Yeah.
If not that, I'm positive the people now are being paid to protest. I'm positive.
Oh, they are.
I told you.
Think there was just funny you should mention this, because I just heard that last month there were posts on Craigslist in major cities literally trying to recruit paid protesters. They were actually saying in the Craigslist ads, we'll pay you to do this. They weren't even trying to cover it up anymore. And no, I'm sure you're right. I'm positive. It wouldn't surprise me the least bit.
Yeah. I got to tell you, when the George Floyd thing happened here in upstate New York, I remember driving down the street and there was this beautiful girl. She was wearing like almost a bikini tank top.
Yeah.
And then she was wearing like a mini skirt, and she was this white girl, and she was holding up BLM, and I was like, why? And she was standing in the middle of the road, and I looked around, and there were all these like white protesters that they looked like goth people, like vampire style.
Oh yeah, goths. Style. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were just standing in the corner. All of them had these signs like BLM and stuff. And I was, what's going on? And now I just thought that was their movement. But now that I think back, I'm almost positive they were paid to be there. 100%. They were paid to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah. So, the obviously the George Floyd stuff started here in Minneapolis. It started here in town. And here in town, I'm accepting this to your theory because of what I think happened. The original uprising, I think, was, well, no, I shouldn't say that. So George Floyd actually got killed on a Monday afternoon, and even then, I was working for Conk News at the time. And everybody said to me, what do you think's going to happen? I said, well, there's going to be a huge protest on a huge riot on Wednesday night. And somebody said, well, why not tomorrow? Why not Tuesday night? I said, it's going to take Antifa 24 hours to get here. That's the reason. And think that's exactly what happened. We had a giant, there was not a riot on Tuesday night. It was on Wednesday night. And that's because everyone came from out of town. So now I don't know if those people were paid per se, because this all happened very quickly. But I know that they were organized. I mean, it was organized online very quickly to come here and do this. I know that. So But so it's kind of it's like those people weren't paid because they didn't have to be, basically. But I can tell you this, and this is, people are still looking into this. You know, when the riots started, there were trucks that were bringing in bricks, and so somebody said, well, who's organizing that? And also, bricks aren't that cheap, especially if you buy them by the pallet. It's like, well, somebody has to be paying this, somebody has to be paying the truck drivers to do it. And yeah, and I think was it in Madison, Wisconsin, they finally figured out, in one location, they finally did trace it. They finally figured out who was that a Democratic operative was paying people to bring the bricks in. But I mean, it was a very organized thing. But the only reason in this case I don't know if people were paid is because I don't think they had to be. It was a very spontaneous uprising, and there were some people who were legitimately pissed off. You don't have to pay people if they're mad, But like I said, Antifa definitely came in from out of town and basically took control of the whole thing. Now, I don't know if my impression is Antifa's paid too. That's my impression. I don't know if they were then in 2020, but I mean, no, I'm not disagreeing with you here. I mean, we're just talking fine points. I mean, no, these people are all paid. No, not all of them. That's my point. Not all of them, but yeah, most of them, or the majority of them, are, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say that not all of them are paid, but the instigators, the ones that basically started,
yes,
like all this stuff, are the ones that are being paid.
Right.
And like you said, I mean, it's not organic. I don't think these type of protests, especially, and all this happened during Trump, when Trump was president. I'm pretty sure if who was the president? If Hillary Clinton was president, we wouldn't have any of these protests.
Of course not. Right.
Because the media, we wouldn't have any of this stuff. And George Floyd wouldn't even be a concept. He wouldn't even be a name.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were utilizing all this stuff to make Trump look bad, and it worked. It did work.
It did.
That's why Trump couldn't get elected the second term.
And you're absolutely right. Think this was the playbook. We'll create a bunch of chaos, and then we'll point at Trump and say, look at all the chaos he creates. Why do you want to vote for someone like this again? No, he didn't create the chaos. They did. Now in 2020 or 2024, they tried the same thing, and they're still trying it. It doesn't work anymore. I mean, the public has finally figured this out. Although and this was actually in my show notes for tonight, there was an article online, and I think this bears repeating. Somebody was talking about the fact, Trump wants to talk about his big landslide. He did win, and he won convincingly, but it was not a landslide. It was still, the public is still kind of 55-45, and the Republicans, the conservatives, can't lose track of this. The fact of the matter is, there's still 45% of the public who's against Trump. And also, and I've actually found this, I think this is refreshing. I don't know if you've seen this in the polls. The recent polls are the vast majority of the public is for what Trump is doing, but a whole 50% of those people still say they personally don't like him. But I think it's actually a good thing that people can actually now say, I like what he's doing, but I don't like him personally. But to make that distinction, because you don't have to like anybody to actually admit that they're doing a good job. You don't. But I'm to get back to what you're saying, you're absolutely right. They created the chaos, and then they tried to blame the chaos on him. And you're right, it did work. And that's the reason, if he lost in 2020, I still don't know if he did or not. But anyway, they actually pulled off a victory. So,
Yeah. I can't believe how much people are. Alex Jones is right. When he coined the term sheeple, Alex Jones was the first person I heard say sheeple, and it's true. There are so many people out there that are basically sheep. They just listen to what the media is telling them, and they follow that narrative. I mean, taxes. Who the hell wants to pay more taxes? But they got people saying we should pay more taxes. What the fuck? And they're agreeing with it.
Yes. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. No, especially considering the fact how much money our government takes in already. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this. The Republicans are actually Trump is trying to come up with a scheme where we can maybe not pay any income tax at all. And
Oh, yeah.
it depends on exactly how you did it, but I think that could be possible. But yet they want us to pay 40 and 50%. I mean, it's absurd. And so then look what happens. The government, I mean, the stuff that's happened at the even at USAID is just. I mean, I always knew the government was wasting money, but what's come out is absolutely atrocious. I mean, they're throwing it around. Well, just like you said, $300 million is nothing. You know, it doesn't matter if you're making movies or you're running the government. $300 million, nobody gives a fuck. So, now they're talking about, you know what, they figured they're talking about, you know, tens of billions of dollars. Well, you add that stuff up and then you end up with $1 or $2 trillion bucks, and then you end up with the deficit for the year, and then you wonder why we're $37 trillion in debt. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely, and you're right. These people still want to continue to do this. It's just, and the reason is because I think they and all their friends are on the gravy train, either with jobs or they're getting money from somebody, or, you know, it's like there's so much money going out of the door that no one can barely keep track of it. It's terrible.
Yeah. When I was going past the Tesla dealership, this is way back. I called your show and I told you I saw this this protest at a Tesla dealership in my area. I remember seeing some of the signs saying "Pay your taxes," and I'm like, "What the hell? Well, why? What? Why would anyone want to pay tax?" It's shocking to me.
Yeah.
The concept that I've heard, this was before Bush was president. I remember I was down south. I don't know where, but this guy told me the most incredible thing. He said that if we get rid of the IRS and income tax, people would make more money. But at the same time, you would raise the sales tax.
Yes.
Right. So
right.
you get rid of income tax and you raise the sales tax by 1 or 2%. And then that's how the government will make their money. It will give incentives for people to go to work because they'll make more money, and then they can pay the products and services that they want. Yeah, whereas if somebody doesn't go to work, they won't be able to pay because it's higher taxes. It's incentive for people to want to work more.
And in some ways, think it's also more fair because, like, if you raise the sales tax to, like, let's say 10 or 15%, for somebody who buys a yacht or a private jet for like $30 or $40 million, you're going to actually pay, well, on $40 million, you'd pay about $6 million in tax. And so if you can afford a private jet, you're actually, you're actually paying. In other words, there's basically no loopholes for rich people. If you're going to spend a lot of money, you're going to pay a lot of tax. If you don't spend a lot of money, you're not going to pay a lot of tax. So in that one sense, it's also very fair, you know. So people keep talking about the fact, well, rich people don't pay enough, you know. Well, that's kind of bullshit. But still, the fact of the matter is, it would be very, very fair to do it this way. And you're absolutely right. And that's what I think the scheme they're trying to come up with, if I'm correct. I don't know. You know, I mean, this is all in the talking stage. I don't know if they'd even be able to change it enough to do it. I don't. I mean, look at this was in my show notes for tonight about the fact that the Senator John Kennedy on the House floor was interviewing another lawyer. Now, I didn't know this. Senator Kennedy is not only an attorney, he was a professor of law at some college somewhere before he became a senator. And he's asking questions of this expert lawyer, attorney, witness. And he already knows the answers to the questions. Well, that's the reason he was asking him about the fact that all these liberal judges all over the country, the federal judges, who are keeping the president and the administration from doing this stuff, they're ruling against them. There's absolutely no, and I've always wondered about this. I wonder what's going on. But Senator Kennedy says there's no precedence in the law for some federal district judge to keep the president to issue a nationwide ruling. He says there's no, it's been done over and over again, and yet there's no mechanism to give them that power, and there's nothing that says they can't. I mean, this is absurd. It's ridiculous, and yet they just keep on doing it. I mean, the problem is, it's like you're trying to turn a battleship around, you know, like in 15 seconds. I mean, it's like it's hard. But I'm not getting off topic here about what you're talking about. But the fact that you're right, the sales tax thing would be very fair. It'd be extremely fair. So.
I like Kennedy. If we're talking about the same Kennedy, he's the guy that's as popular as chlamydia. He's the funniest guy I've
Yeah,
ever.
that's right.
He's
Him.
just so funny.
He
Yeah,
is.
the way he talks. Where does he come up with this?
Yeah, was he? I think from
He's
is
the
he
funniest guy.
senator from Louisiana? I think, I'm not sure, but yeah, somewhere down south anyway. Yeah, he is very funny. I agree. Very, very hilarious.
It's very natural. I don't even know if he's attempting to be funny or if this is just the way he was grown up. He was taught to speak, like his style.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't laugh after he says it.
No.
He just says a straight face, like it's normal slang to him. It's his typical nomenclature. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
It is. I totally agree. Go ahead.
I gotta tell you, Jim. Well, how about I ask you this first? Because it seems like you're older than me a little bit, maybe a few years.
I'm old as the hills, think. I'm just lucky I still have all my hair.
Yeah, you got me there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry.
So it's all right. Was it always like this? Because I've never saw it this bad. When Trump became president, I saw a huge divide, and things like these fabricated inorganic riots happen. You know, it doesn't. It seems like everything is a play. You know, like a show for us to see. It's none of this is real. Whereas before Trump, I would think that everything was organic, like Rodney King riots.
Yeah.
I thought that was real. People really wanted to do that. They weren't paid to do that.
No.
People felt like they had to do that. And the Watts riot, you know, these were real organic things. But when Trump became president, I think everything was so fake. I don't even believe COVID was a real thing. I still stand by it. I think it was all fabricated to get Trump out of presidency, and it worked. It worked.
That's that's interesting because about COVID being fabricated, because there's two ways to look at that. As a disease, yes, it was fabricated, and I never thought about the fact that there was actually this whole thing was drummed up specifically to get Trump out of office. That's never occurred to me. I never thought about that. That's an interesting point of view you have there. But as you know, the thing is, and they're finally admitting this about the fact that no, COVID came out of that stupid lab, and COVID was engineered by people, by scientists, and it got. I don't know. I've said, talking about conspiracy theories, I've said for the longest time that I think the Chinese might have released it on purpose just to see what happened. It was basically a giant experiment. Because the thing with COVID, and you can't lose track of that. It's not that harmful. I mean, yeah, it kills people, but the flu kills people too. It's not just another version of the flu. That's all it is. I mean, and everyone got their undies completely in a bundle. And I just wonder sometimes if the Chinese government or the communist Chinese just thought, well, okay, let's release this out in the wild and let's just see what the hell happens. Because the thing is, they knew relatively speaking anyway, not a lot of people were going to die. I mean, that, everything's relative. Okay, people died. Yeah, that's terrible. And even some of their own people died, and that's terrible. But relatively speaking, it wasn't like Ebola where it's going to kill 80% of all the people that came in contact with it. It wasn't like that. So, yeah, it never occurred to me that they released it to specifically to battle Trump, but I do wonder if they released it just to see, as an experiment. It's like, and then the West we lost our minds, and now they realize, well, oh, Jesus, we can do this shit, and now they're gonna maybe do it. I don't know.
It might be a combination of both. Where the virus was let out, and then people died. But then the left took it and never let a crisis go to waste.
Right.
Type of,
yes. Right.
Scenario,
I think
made it worse than it was. And they utilized it.
Yeah, and I think that's the most likely scenario. Yeah, it got out into the wild, and then somebody here in the United States realized, holy shit, we can use this, and they very quickly got their crap together and organized it. That's what I think you're right. That's what I think actually happened. So in other words, and you're saying the same thing I'm going to say now. It wasn't planned per se, but they very quickly realized they had something and organized around it. That's what I actually think happened.
Yeah, I could see it that way. I could see it that way too. I got to tell you, I follow a website called World Star Hip Hop. I don't know if you know what that is.
No,
it's
I don't.
like a snuff website. Back in the days, there used to be these websites called snuff websites.
Yeah.
Where there's no censorship. You would see the actual people getting killed, like a knife cutting people's throat.
Right.
But World Star Hip Hop is along those lines. And I was watching all these people in China. The first time I heard COVID was on World Star. And then it was like months later, weeks later, then I started hearing the media talk about it. But World Star showed the videos of the people in China, like they'll stand in a McDonald's and then they'll just drop and start shaking and dying. And then they kept showing all these videos of people in China like falling down, shaking, standing in lines. I've never seen those videos here in America, only in China. Have you ever seen a video like that?
No, I haven't.
In the United States, like somebody at Walmart just dropping and shaking?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold it. Those were the videos.
I'm going to get completely off topic just for a second because I want to compliment you about this thing about the stuff underneath the pyramids at Giza, because you brought that up, and I've actually talked about you on the air. I don't know if you've heard it since then. You called in and we talked about that a good week before that actually made the mainstream press around the world, and then it did. It was, I don't know, for a few days it was all over the place, but you were on top of it about at least a week ahead of time, maybe even 10 days. So anyway, I want to thank you for that. You broke a little news. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so real quick before I forget, when this was weeks or maybe a month before mainstream media got a hold of COVID. Nobody was talking. So I was watching all these videos on World Star, showing all these Chinese people, and so I went to the CDC website, Center for Disease, and then what is the World Health Organization website?
Right.
And they were talking about COVID. They were talking about the same thing that was happening in China. And I remember they had videos on how to protect yourself. And it was very simple. They said, take more zinc. Just take zinc and it should solve the whole, it will stop the reproduction of the COVID in the body.
Right.
So you die not from the virus, but you die from the reproduction of it. And they said that for people that had digestive problems or couldn't absorb the zinc, they used this thing called hydroxychloroquine, which would take the zinc and force it into the plasma. And when the zinc is in the plasma, then it'll stop the reproduction of the COVID. And that's how they would stop it. So to me, it was simple. Just keep taking more zinc. That's all it was. So it wasn't serious. But I was looking at those videos in China. I was like, there's no way. It's got to be fake because it just didn't seem real to me. But
hold it, but zinc.
That's why
think about this too. So you said you're right. Now, first of all, zinc is the common antidote to the influenza too. You take a bunch of zinc and usually you get over the flu. It's the same thing. But you said you take a hydroxychloroquine to force zinc into your system or into your cells, and yet that's the very thing that everybody in the mainstream press said you shouldn't do. I mean, isn't that crazy? Is the one thing that actually worked, and then they said no, you can't do this, and if you do this, you're spreading misinformation. I mean, when I look back on this whole thing, I understand that the government may have been corrupt and all that sort of stuff, but I don't understand how you're talking about people getting paid off. I think the press got paid off too, because I don't see any way any reasonable person would have fought this. I mean, it's like, but no, the press was spreading misinformation, and you're absolutely correct. because the thing is, it really is only a variation of the flu. And I said this on the show going back years. Well, no, I'm talking about Kong News going back then, about the fact that 40,000 people in America die of the flu every year. I mean, that's not, and it took about 3 years before that many people died of COVID. It was ridiculous. It was absurd, and so it's just, I mean, I still remember because I literally kept track. I remember we did a show on Kong News where I actually said, for the first time ever now, COVID deaths have annually surpassed flu deaths. And it's like, it's just the whole thing. The whole thing was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. I mean, and yet I mean, Christ, I mean, it's so fucking pathetic. It just is. I mean, so you just said that. So, okay, we know how to stop this. And yet that very thing, well, that's what you can't do. Who would say stuff like that?
That's right. That's right. Jim, you know Superman. You've seen Superman.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
The movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Perry White is the guy that controls the whole Daily Planet. He's the head honcho, right?
Yeah.
And if you watch the Superman movie, Superman introduces himself to the world, and Perry White tells all his reporters, "What's the story?" And then one guy's like, "Well, there's something that the government is experimenting on. That's the nuclear bomb." And another person said, "Well, there's somebody that's trying to dig into the ground." And Perry White turns to all his news reporters and said, "No, that's not the story. I want you all to write about Superman." And that's how I see the media. They all have their own point of views and what they want to write about, but there's somebody telling them, "No, this is what you write about."
Yeah.
And that's why we had all these reporters saying hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. And then there's a horse tranquilizer and all this stuff, that the whole COVID is real. It's going to kill you. And that they had a ticker of all these people. I remember that. Remember that?
Yes.
On CNN? They
CNN.
had a ticker of the number of deaths. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
They were pushing this fear on people on purpose.
Yeah,
and
but
they control and they manipulated all the reporters one story.
Yeah, think about this. They've completely lost their credibility, and now nobody's watching anymore. And I mean, literally, in terms of actual numbers, nobody's watching. CNN's going to, I assume they're going to fold up at some point, because I don't think at this point. I was talking to Tim Conaway. He's a story journalist, and he was the head of Flint Publications for many years, and he agreed with me. He said they don't have the guts to do what they have to do to actually turn that organization around, and it's probably going to fold. So they killed their golden goose, and God knows they had one, because I mean, this is the thing about the media, is there's so much money in it. It's mind-boggling. It just is. I mean, Fox News is basically printing money in the basement. I mean, Christ almighty, their ratings are just so unbelievably people don't, if you watch Fox News, you just think they're bragging. They're not. It's like, it's really, and conversely, MSNBC and CNN, nobody's watching. And so, MSNBC will be interesting because they're being cut off from NBC News. Remember, that was on my show notes tonight. Steve Kornacki, the guy who does the charts and graphs there, he's going to NBC, so he's not going to be on MSNBC, and they're going to cut, NBC is going to cut MSNBC off, and so they won't actually have a news source anymore. And it's just, I don't know. I'm probably talking inside baseball. I'm probably boring you, but they killed by doing all this crap. They killed their own influence. I mean, it's really incredible.
I don't know if they can ever come back from this, because I can't trust them. I can't. This is, if they didn't come out and just blatantly lie like this, they would still be credible. But I think people are seeing through their bullshit now. It's all a bunch of lies. I can't trust any of the media, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And I like Fox News.
Well,
I like Fox News, but I don't even trust them either.
No.
I mean,
but think about this. Think about it from the other point of view. Who are the people that do? You're right. I think they've so blown their credibility that, okay, they've got 300,000 people watching, but why are the 300,000 people watching? I don't understand that. It's like, how could you trust them after this? I don't understand how anybody could. I really don't.
100%. They lost all credibility with me, and I mean, when I hear somebody talk, Jim, you got to hear this story. It was during COVID, right? It was during COVID, and Biden was running for president. It was during the end of COVID. I was at this this business. I might have told you this story.
No, I don't know.
But I was talking
have.
about COVID. Yeah, I was talking about the COVID with this one kid, and he must have been like 18, 19 years old. And he says this to me, you're speaking a bunch of malarkey. And then I was looking at this 18-year-old kid saying malarkey, and I'm like, what fucking 18-year-old kid uses the word malarkey? And I knew right away, he's been watching all this news.
Yeah.
And he's just repeating exactly what they're telling him.
Right.
So it just shows the brainwash of this.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it.
I have a similar story with a relative of mine, which I'm not even going to talk about how they're related to me because I don't want to identify them. I was talking about climate change with somebody, and I wasn't even talking about the fact that, well, I don't buy climate change at all. I don't, or human caused climate change anyway. And just to be clear on this, I've always said on the show, global warming is real, but humans aren't causing it. That's what's going on here. But anyway, so it just came up, and my relative says to me, he says, I suppose you believe you're a climate change denier, aren't you? And I said, and tried to be diplomatic because I didn't want to talk about politics. I said, well, there's a lot of evidence to indicate that humans aren't causing this. And he just said to me, well, that's just bullshit. He said, everybody knows humans are causing it. And I said, how does everybody know? Because the press told you? It's... I mean, yeah, most people just parrot what they hear. No, not most, about half of them. And finally, it seems like people are finally starting to get this through their heads that all this climate change stuff is bullshit. The only reason this came up ever, the only reason Al Gore brought this through his ugly head, was to raise money. That's it. That's all it's about. There's no truth to any of it at all. Like I said, no, global warming is real. The world is warming up. But there's not only is there no evidence that humans are causing it, there's evidence that humans aren't causing it. It's basically, I mean, in 25 words or less, it's the sun, So, but finally now, I'm finally starting to see signs that people are actually starting to understand this. But it's taken like 10, 15 years. I mean, shit, that stupid movie Gore did, I think, came out in 2006. It's been 20 years they've been talking about this. It was a 20-year lie. It was just bullshit. You were right. I mean, about, as far as I can tell, about half of the populace, and I actually have this in my show notes for tonight about, I had another one of my relatives was talking about the fact that, the Republicans are going to kill Social Security. No, they're not. They haven't even come close to talking about that. I mean, they haven't. But if you watch the certain news channels, you'll hear that, and then you believe it. I don't know why they don't. There's some people, and I know I have a lot of friends. I mean, I'm old, so I have a lot of friends that talk about this, about the fact, they still believe the New York Times, because the New York Times was, for like 100 years in America, the paper of record, quote unquote. It's not anymore. They blew their credibility too. They did. They've blown it over the last 10, 15 years. And I don't think anyone should listen to them anymore. But people, it's a habit. If you've grown up with the fact, well, this is the best newspaper in America, you just keep believing it. And it's hard to convince people, especially my generation, that that's not true anymore. But it isn't. It's the same crap.
I'll tell you, when I was younger, younger as in when I was in college, my friends and I, almost everybody, and I'm pretty sure you probably too, Jim, we all agreed. I think everybody had a universal a connection where we all agreed that the government was corrupt. Well, the people, regular citizens, I think all agreed that the government was corrupt and they were stealing people's money and utilizing it to fund stupid stuff. And they were pocketing the money and all this type of stuff. I think everybody agreed with that. And now that Trump is exposing it, there's a side that says, no, you can't expose it because it's not that way? Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do.
don't understand that. Yeah, almost everyone I talked to said that the government was stealing money. And now Trump is exposing it, and somehow the media has brainwashed people to say no, the government is not stealing money, is utilizing that money for specific purposes, like for, I don't know, like to help the people. They don't explain how that money is being used to help the people, but they're mimicking or mocking what the media is telling them to say. The money that's going to USAID is for helping organizations or helping people, but they're exposing all this bad stuff that's that is being used by USA, like well, what is that? Gay? No, not gay.
Transgender mice. What is that about? God
the
Almighty!
Whole Sesame Street show in the Middle East was a weird one.
That's right.
Also, all
Chrissakes
sorts of DI weird stuff. But real quick before I forget, Jim, when Trump tried to pass his second stimulus bill, right? The Democrats wouldn't let Trump pass that second stimulus bill. We needed the money, but the Democrats wouldn't let him pass it because they wanted to put more funding in it to support stupid stuff, just like what they were finding in the USAID thing. And I remember the weirdest one that I saw was study of lizards on a treadmill.
Yes.
And I was like, well, why would you need to have study? It might do something, but why do you want to fund that right now when the people are locked down, nobody's allowed to go to work, and we need that money right now because nobody's working? But you want to have lizards on the treadmill right now, studying lizards on the treadmill? That makes sense. I don't understand why people don't get this. That's all.
Go ahead. Do you think there's a chance that we have scientists now who basically run out of things to investigate? I mean, I think we have more scientists maybe than we need. It's like, and then, so to justify their existence, and this is not a government thing per se, or not about the spending, it's about the scientists themselves. Sometimes I think they're literally trying to justify their existence by coming up with more and more ridiculous stuff to investigate. It's like, I don't think anybody needs to investigate transgender mice. I just don't. I don't know if you need to put a lizard on a treadmill to see what's going to happen. I just don't. It's like, will the world survive without this shit? Yeah, it will. We're not talking about particle physics here. I mean, Christ, I don't know. Just like, it's crazy.
I don't think those were real studies, Jim. I think those were all fake. I don't think any of that stuff was a real study. I think it was just somebody who was like, hey, I want to pocket $3 million.
Right.
Let's make up some fraudulent stuff.
Yeah, you might be right. That's true. Yeah, we'll just put a line item down and put a description here, and it doesn't matter what the description is. I just get the cash. Right. You're probably right. That's probably true. Yeah.
Hey, Jim, about the whole pyramid thing, real quick. If we could just switch topics.
Yeah, no, let's do that because I'm gonna probably have to let you go pretty soon. So this is a good way to finish. Go ahead.
Okay, so the studies haven't really. I'm researching into that as well, and the studies, they haven't really published enough information to be that's creditable yet. But I'm not saying that it's not credible. There's all the mainstream people are going to say it's all fake. Like I forgot his name. That I keep forgetting his name. That Egyptian guy saying that it's
I can't remember his name either. I know what you're talking about. He's the head of antiquities, right? But I don't remember his name.
Yeah. All the mainstream archaeologists are saying it's fake. There's not enough information that these Doppler radars can't detect that far deep in the ground, because they're saying it's 1.5 miles or 1.2 miles deep into the ground of all this type of stuff that they're seeing. But the main argument here is they didn't do it in one day or a month. This is over years.
Right.
They've been gathering data over years and years, and then they've been analyzing the data on a graph and using AI to pinpoint where the vibrations. Because what they're doing is they're sending vibrations on the top, and the vibrations will go somewhere in the ground, and they'll bring up different colors or some spectrum, and they'll map it out over years, and that's how they got those that type of blueprint on what it looks. So the information is not there yet, but it's not 100% uncreditable. There's still, this could be real. Is what I'm saying. But
I've heard a variation of that. What I've heard is that people are saying, well, the images are legit. In other words, there's something going on down there. But the discrepancy I've heard is that some people are debating or disputing the fact that, like, for example, there's buildings down there or something like that. That's what I've heard. But I've also, like I said, I've heard that some of the people said, well, the images are real and there's no distortion. So there's something going on. I've heard that. So I don't know, which is kind of a variation of what you're saying. I think we're both kind of saying the same thing. But yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. You know, there does seem to be something down there. I mean, it does not, you know, what it is may be open to dispute, but I agree with you. They took a long time to do this, and I don't think it's completely bogus. I don't.
There has to be something down there that's holding up the pyramids. You know, on Easter Island, I think those things are called the Moai. The
Moabs. They're called Moabs.
Yeah, the Moabs.
Right.
Yeah, and so the Moabs, it would almost seem like it's just they made heads, but it's not. These are full body sculptures, but over time they just sank into the ground, and the only thing left is their head above ground.
Right.
So these statues sunk into the ground, and the pyramids didn't shrink or sink into the ground. So what's keeping them up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would think that it would be something along these lines that's keeping the pyramids up.
And you got a really good point there. I never really thought about that, because those things weigh. Well, I was going to say a ton, but that's just an expression. No. I mean, no. Well, there's 2 million blocks, and each block averages about 50 tons each. So I can't do the math off the top of my head, but you're talking about something that weighs a shitload. I mean, it's like, it's really, really heavy. And I never thought about that. I mean, God, why does it? And also it's on, you know, it's basically sand. I mean, it's like, there's not a lot of, you know, you think that you're right. You think the whole thing would just sink, especially over 4,000 or 5,000 years, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I never thought about that. Think you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, maybe it wouldn't sink in 100 years, but God, after 4,000 or 5,000 years, I mean, okay, so I'll just give an example here. You know, the St. Anthony Falls, the reason Minneapolis is here is because we have the only waterfalls on the Mississippi River. And that waterfall has been creeping up the river because the limestone cap on it has been disintegrating, and it's been creeping up about 6 inches a year. Now, they finally, in the 1950s, they put a concrete apron over the cap, so it stopped, because now they're thinking, because nobody uses the river, the waterfalls for power anymore, they're actually thinking about taking the cap off, in which case they figure at about 50 years, the waterfall will dissipate into rapids. But my point is, it moved like, you know, a half a mile in like 300 years, just 300 years, you know? I mean, so that's just like, I mean, if you have something that's that heavy, all right, maybe in 100 years it would sink maybe a foot, but in 4,000 years, it'd be buried by now. Wouldn't it?
Right.
I mean, Christ. I never thought about this. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Something must be holding it up.
It's got to be. And 4,000 years is what the archaeologists estimate. But we don't know if that's an actual date.
No, we don't.
It could be even older than that.
Yes, that's the youngest. That's the youngest it is. It might be like 20 or 30,000 years. You're absolutely right.
That's right. Yeah. They definitely built it at a time that we don't. It's going to be interesting, and I think the only way, and the only reason why they won't accept this, the antiquities guy that we're trying to come up with. I don't know his name right now, but he works with the Egyptian government, and the Egyptian government won't allow people to dig there, because if they dig there, then the tourists will not come and see it. And that's a multi-billion-dollar industry for them.
Right.
And they would lose so much money by doing this,
Yeah.
by doing excavations and stuff. So they will not allow it. I mean, that's the only problem right there. Unless a multi-billionaire comes in here and gets funding and says, hey, we're going to pay your government $10 billion this year, allow us to dig underneath this pyramid so we could really see what's there, I think the Egyptian government will do it. But if there's no money, I mean, they won't allow anyone to dig, and we would never know. That's how I see it.
There's another thing too, and that is they say they have seen evidence of spiral staircases. Maybe if they can just unearth one of those, maybe they can actually go down there. I don't know, you know. But
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, they're not going to kill their literally their golden goose. They won't do that.
No, that's definitely for sure.
Anyway, I got to thank you because you brought that to our attention and my attention well before, at least a week, if not 2 weeks before the mainstream press started talking about it. So I don't know where you heard about it, but yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're on top of stuff. You know, you're on top of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know what it is about me. I was on top of the whole COVID thing too. Before anybody knew about it, I was already studying it, and when it came out, it wasn't a shock to me. I remember my stock thing. I invest in stock, and my alarm went down because it dropped so much. I bought right away, and so I was preparing for all this. But why didn't anyone else know? It just was weird to me. Like, why didn't I don't know, whatever it is.
Well, hold on. I got to tell you too. So I was working at Call It News when this happened, and I still remember because it was basically Saturday, March 10th, 2020 is basically when the world shut down, because I remember because that night I was supposed to go to a very important event in my life, and it got canceled at the last minute. That's the reason I remember the date. But that's that weekend is when everything shut down. So I started, and so Jeff Meyer, who runs Kong News, and I'm the editor, and he says, well, Jim, would you start tracking this stuff? Yeah, sure. I wanted to do that. And I used the CDC website too, like you did. And I used the state of Minnesota website. I started to track COVID deaths, and and I started around the 1st of April, I think. And by May, around the middle of May, it took me about 6 weeks, it was pretty obvious to me that this was a disease of the old and the sick. It was killing old, sick people. That's the people who were dying. And everyone else seemed basically unaffected. And I'm thinking, well, I'm looking at this, and I'm not just literally some guy sitting in my office, just fucking around. And I thought, well, now that they're trying to lock the world down, I'm thinking, well, the only people that are dying of this are affected by this are old people. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be just easier just kind of quarantine them or something? It's like, anyway, none of it made sense to me. And I started to doubt whether I'm saying, am I missing something here? It's like this doesn't make any sense. Well, it turns out I was right, and no one else made any sense. I mean, and it took me 3 years to figure that out. But I mean, it's the same thing like what you're talking about. I mean, I think anybody of any reasonable mind, and I'm no scientist and I'm not a medical person, I don't think you are either. Anybody with any reasonable mind who had looked at the data would have come to the same conclusion. But for some reason they didn't. And I get back to what you're talking about. We're coming full circle here about the fact that I think people were paid not to agree with the data. I can't think of any other reason. Either that the world is freaking stupid, one or the other. I can't, I can't buy that. There's enough bright people so that somebody should have figured it out. I just don't. And
I'm going.
Go ahead,
Jim. Please let me reiterate this. I've told you before. I'm going to reiterate again. People are good people. Very, very good people. People are good people. Except there are a bunch of us that are following bad advice, and that's all it is. People want to do good, but when you tell good people that to be good, you need to do this. and these people can't differentiate the difference. They don't have time to study and differentiate the difference, that what is good and what is bad. And I think that's what a lot of people are starting to show. I mean, there are bad people that know they're doing bad and they do it anyway, but the majority of people, I would say, are good people, and they think that there's a mandate from heaven or something for them to do. And that's how someone can blow up and kill themselves and blow up a Tesla dealership, shoot it up and spray paint Tesla, destroying all this property. I think they're feeling like they're doing good by doing bad.
Yeah, I understand.
But when they're really doing bad.
But think, who's, you're talking about the fact that you have good people following bad advice, but who's giving the bad advice? That's the real question. Right. Because the thing is, I'm like, okay, so you and I looked at all this data and we came to the same conclusion. And I'd like to think any reasonably intelligent person would have too. So the people why didn't the people giving the advice come to the same conclusion? And the only thing I can think of is just what we were talking about, 45 minutes ago, about the fact that for some reason they're incentivized not to. That's the only reason I can think of.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, am I wrong about this? Because you're right. People are good, and the only reason people wouldn't is either they're intrinsically evil, they're stupid, or they're getting paid. One of those only one of those three choices. There's just three choices there, and I don't know which one it is, but it's like it's not normal.
One of these days, I would like to talk to you about my concept of evil. I don't think anyone is born evil. I don't think anyone does evil. I think it's all down to interpretation of what, like a drug dealer. You might think a drug dealer is evil, right?
No. Well, here's the deal.
That drug dealer.
Here's the deal. And you're right. We should talk about this. We should have a discussion about this sometime. Here's my theory on this: that true evil does exist, but it's very rare. The vast majority of stuff that people think is evil is just unbelievable stupidity. That's what I think. I mean, I don't even. I mean, all right, people. I shouldn't say this because I'm going to get shit for saying this. I'm not even certain Hitler was actually evil. I'm not. He was certainly misguided and psychopathic and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, yeah, maybe. So maybe if Hitler's evil was maybe killing the Jews, but the war itself, that was just crap, And so, and I'm just using that as an example. I had a friend of mine who worked at the juvenile division of the Hennepin County. This would be here in Minneapolis, our county government agency, and she was in juvenile law and juvenile detention, and she said, "Jim, I've processed thousands of kids in my entire career, thousands of them." And she said, "I met one kid who I thought was truly, utterly, intrinsically evil. That was it out of thousands." And I would say that's kind of the way the world works. I think I do think real evil exists, but I think it's very, very rare. I really do. And so I don't know. That's my personal feeling, I think. I don't know where you're at, but you want to tell me?
I agree with you there. If you were to say that Hitler is evil, then you're going to have to say the founding fathers of this country is evil as well. I mean, they killed Hitler. Supposed to have killed 8 million Jews or something like that. The number that I was told when I was in high school was he killed 2 million Jews, but somehow it's like 8 million Jews. You probably have the proper number.
I've heard 6. I've heard 6 million. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I heard that to make this country, 14 million Indians had to die to make this country.
Yeah.
And they're still suffering. So, I mean, is Hitler bad for killing 8 million Jews, but 14 million Indians died to make this country? So, I mean, I have to agree with you there. I mean, how do we know what evil is? I mean, it's a deep concept. History is written by the winners. That's all it is.
Right.
If Hitler had won the war, we would all think that Jewish people are bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it. Yeah.
And then, well, if you're going to talk about World War II history, and it's funny you should mention this because I've been thinking about this lately. If Hitler Hitler just got so damn carried away. So if he hadn't tried to take over Britain and he entered the Soviet Union and just concentrated on Europe, he could have had the whole thing. He could have, he wanted Germania, and that would have been Germania. I mean, and some things. Why do you even want Britain and the Soviet Union? You don't want that. It's like I mean, and this is, people have said this, that he started the war as a masterful a military strategist, and by the end he was just nuts. He was crazy. And some people, I don't know if you've heard this thing, some people think it's because he was literally having biochemical issues. He was really becoming extremely unhealthy and really kind of biochemically messed up. So and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a theory. But I mean, yeah, I can't say he started the war with the best of intentions, but he started the war with a clear goal. And at first they were accomplishing that. They took over all these countries. I mean, shit, France caved with barely a shot. They took over Poland. They got Austria, all this stuff, and if he had just he truly did want to take over the world, and that's stupid. He should have just stuck to his neighborhood. It's just like, I don't know. It's like, but I heard a historian once say, and I thought this was really interesting. He said, there was was called the night of Kristallnacht, which was the night of death, which was, I think, in September 1939, if I'm right. That's the night they started to round up the Jews. But if Hitler had died before then of natural causes or whatever, he would have gone on in history as one of the greatest statesmen who ever lived, because he completely turned Germany around in less than 20 years. And so, I mean, it's a very convoluted story, but it isn't entirely based on evil. And I know people don't want to hear that, but it's true. Yes, some of it's evil, but not all of it. And I guess it gets back to what you're talking about, the founding fathers. You killed 14 million Indians, and not to mention the fact, coming from the Midwest here, I know for a fact, I know a lot about this because a lot of it happened here. The Indians were just treated like crap. I mean, even if they weren't killed, they were just they were treated like subhumans. And it's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So yeah, you're right. Who's more evil? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, we celebrate Thanksgiving where both the Pilgrims and the Indians supposed to have ate together in friendship, but it wasn't after. It was only a little bit while after Thanksgiving the Pilgrims started killing the Indians.
Yeah.
I mean, and taking over their land. I mean, history is written by the winners.
Yep.
That's how I see it.
You're right.
That's how I see it.
Can't argue with it all. Think I'm going to let you go, okay? Because
Thanks for having me on. Jim.
Hey, no, thank you. I really appreciate it. I love it when you call. So please, anytime, okay? Thank you.
Yep. I'll talk to you again.
I'll see you.
Yep.
You take
Bye-bye.
care. That's Think calling from upstate New York. Great conversationalist, fantastic guy. And it's really true. He had a thing on the pyramids in Giza. He came on the show and called in and talked about it a good 2 weeks before the press were talking about it. Pretty cool. We're on top of stuff. Anyway, I'm going to end here with what I was going to say when Think called about the fact that tomorrow. Well, so this is the deal. We've been broadcasting the show in 720p. That's a video standard that's considered standard high def. Okay, your television at home is probably in 1080p, which is considered, for lack of a better term, high def. But that's 1080p is pretty much the standard of broadcasting right now. And we've been in 720, and we started doing that because the computing power at a year and a half ago when we started the show we didn't have quite as much. Tomorrow night, we're going to run an experiment. We're actually going to try doing the show in 1080p, which you probably won't notice at all, especially if you're watching this online, on a web browser or something like that. You probably won't notice the difference. If you're watching on Rumble on your TV, you might notice the difference, especially if your TV's large. But we're going to try it tomorrow night and see what happens. I mean, the reason I haven't done it in the past is I just thought, well, of all the stuff we have going on here, that we would, and because we're not exactly. It's not this is, to get back to what Think was talking about. This isn't exactly cowboys and Indians we're broadcasting here. It's a talking heads. So it's not that there's not that much visual movement. So I didn't think it was even necessary that the 1080p thing was even necessary. But we're making some changes here that in the future we might have to do that. And so we're going to, as an experiment tomorrow night, we're going to try it. So we'll see if the show crashes and burns. I'm sorry. I don't think it will. I think it should be fine now, especially a year and a half ago. We might have had some problems with this. Now I think it's going to be okay. So we're going to try it, and we might try it several more times too. And if it works, we'll do it permanently. So that's that. And so tomorrow night, our guest is going to be Jeff Meyer. Like I said, if he can call in from the snowstorm, if he can, from northern Wisconsin, we'll see. And we're taking Thursday off, and we're already lining guests up for next week, so that's good. One more thing I was going to talk about. What was it? Oh Jesus! Oh yeah. Well, I'm taking Thursday off, right? So yeah, we have only tonight. We have only one more show this week, so that's that. Sorry about that. Want to thank again for calling. I want to thank you guys for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. Love doing this. So, good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. And good night to you, wherever you are. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care, everyone.